A farm water quality management plan, or farm plan, has been required of all growers on the Central Coast since 2005. The plan stays on the farm and needs to be available if the Regional Water Board staff requests it or shows up for a ranch inspection.
With the help of local workshops, most growers created their farm plans in 2005, describing their management practices to keep fertilizers, pesticides, and eroded soils from leaving their ranches as discharges that could affect downstream water bodies. Many growers also made changes to their operations after realizing there would be consequences if irrigation runoff left a ranch carrying too much fertilizer, pesticides, or eroded soils.
Fast forward to today. After 20 years of sampling 55 watersheds across the Central Coast region, there are some improving trends in water quality, and some farmers have clearly made big changes.
Unfortunately, it's also becoming apparent that a lot of farm plans are not being kept current or followed, and the discharges from these farms are being repeatedly detected at downstream monitoring sites and at high concentrations. The Regional Water Board has reacted to ongoing water quality impairments by imposing new hard and fast deadlines in Ag Order 4.0. Most waterways must stop exceeding limits by 2032. For a few water bodies and contaminants, that date is 2040.
Not only is a farm water quality management plan still required for all farms on the Central Coast, and especially those in high priority watersheds, but ignoring the rule could leave an operation on its own to deal with water board requirements. Irrigated agriculture interests responded to Ag Order 4.0 by developing a surface water follow-up program. This expanded program requires all growers to prepare a surface water quality management plan and sediment and erosion management plan, or SEMP, whether they are part of Preservation Inc. or complying with an individual operation permit.
This individual permit requires that growers perform their own farm discharge monitoring and submit part or all of their farm plan to the Regional Water Board for direct inspection. Results from the edge of ranch sampling would also need to be submitted to the Water Board, making the information publicly available.
Since its formation in 2004, Preservation Inc. has kept Central Coast agriculture compliant with the past ag orders by sampling waterways and tracking problem areas. With adoption of Ag Order 4.0 in 2021, compliance with the new requirements entails more involvement by Preservation Inc. with its members.
To avoid individual ranch-level monitoring requirements, Preservation Inc. and its members need to significantly reduce water quality impairments from farm discharges. We need to achieve full compliance with numeric limits in the order by 2032 for most watersheds and parameters, and by 2040 for others. The goal of Preservation Inc.'s new surface water follow-up program is to ensure that needed management practice improvements take place on the ranches and in the watersheds where impairments originate.
The new follow-up program focuses on watersheds listed in Ag Order 4.0 as high priority based on the frequency and severity of water quality impairments at downstream monitoring sites. Beginning in 2026, the follow-up program will expand to medium priority watersheds, which will bring hundreds of additional ranches into the program.
In order for this new program to provide a safe harbor from individual monitoring requirements, ranches in high priority watersheds need to do additional work to manage runoff by improving their farm plans.
In particular, expanding the sediment and erosion management portion of the farm plan and ensuring that the plans are effective. Ranch-specific SEMPs were due to Preservation Inc. by May 31st, 2025.
The SEMP portion of the farm plan must meet a set of minimum criteria that Preservation Inc. has developed. Then, growers need to conduct the self-assessment observations during both the summer irrigation and winter storm seasons to ensure that the plan is effective. In fact, key to the long-term success of the SEMP approach is for growers to have an ongoing self-evaluation plan, a required element of the SEMP for participation in Preservation Inc.'s follow-up program. This includes logging observations of discharges leaving a ranch, describing how well the management practices are performing, and the intensity and water quality characteristics of any discharges that are still leaving the ranch.
Most importantly in the plan is for growers to map their discharge locations and assess those locations regularly and adjust their management practices as needed based on what they observe about the discharges leaving the ranch from those locations.
Anywhere that observations indicate that it's not effective, participants need to make adjustments to their plans, update their management practices, and implement new or increased practices to ensure that the plan is effective. The focus in 2025 is encouraging growers to update and complete their SEMPs using what they learned from Preservation Inc., ranch visits, and introductory meetings in 2024, and also a grower's own observations during self-assessment.
If a grower had a ranch visit with Preservation Inc. in 2024 or 2025, the focus of that visit was to make observations of your ranch runoff and train you in performing self-assessment.
The objective criteria that Preservation Inc. is currently using to determine good standing participant status for the follow-up program are: was the operator responsive when contacted by Preservation Inc.? Did they participate in ranch visits and introductory meetings to receive training on self-assessments and general information about the program? Was the SEMP submitted to Preservation Inc. for review? And finally, did the SEMP meet all the necessary completeness criteria, of which includes self-evaluation?
The completeness criteria for a SEMP is a demonstration that the grower is performing self-evaluation and adjusting their management practices according to the outcome of that self-evaluation or self-assessment. That step is an additional element of good standing participation in this program.
Preservation Inc. will submit a progress report to the Regional Water Board well in advance of the 2032 deadline.
Preservation Inc. is required to demonstrate to the Water Board that our member growers in these high priority watersheds are moving toward compliance and not waiting until 2032 to make changes where needed. We want to show that growers are implementing their farm water quality management plans and achieving measurable water quality improvements in downstream water bodies. We are targeting 2028 to show at least 50% improvement in water quality for nutrients, sediment, and toxicity related to pesticides. So by 2028, halfway to the 2032 deadline, all SEMPs and nutrient and pesticide management efforts need to have improved sufficiently in these high priority watersheds. An additional goal is to ensure that by 2026, all of the ranches in high priority and medium priority watersheds have a SEMP that meets minimum criteria for completeness. That job won't be easy because all operations in high priority watersheds with discharges, which is the vast majority of them, will need to make management practice changes that lead to improvements in water quality.
The most effective management practices fall into three categories: prevention, containment, and treatment.
Preservation Inc. is trying really hard to stay in our water quality lane and not get into the business of judging anyone's farming operation or their management practices. The practices that a grower lists in each SEMP need to be proven effective, or at least show that they're making good faith efforts to make their SEMP more effective if it's lacking. And that is determined by the grower's self-assessment or observations of their discharges.
Summer of 2025 has been busy for Preservation Inc. staff as they hold in-person or virtual meetings with hundreds of growers to provide feedback on the submitted SEMPs. These reviews identify areas that either adequately meet the criteria or need improvement or further information.
We are also seeking grower feedback on our criteria and the overall process to make sure that what we're doing is helpful to our members in their efforts to address water quality impairments on the Central Coast. For ranches that are able to prevent or fully contain their discharges, or they're able to treat whatever does leave the ranch to the point where it meets water quality objectives, that information documented in their SEMP then becomes their off-ramp, and it enables us to deprioritize them for additional outreach or requests for additional improvements.
And then what?
Continue what you're doing, maintain management practices, and continue logging observations.
For those who are not able to prevent, contain, or treat all of their discharges, the information from their self-evaluation should be used to guide decisions about changes to management practices to further mitigate discharges. Also, continue with the self-assessments and management practice updates. Additionally, depending on the impairment, pesticides, nitrates, or sediment, the focus needs to be on specific management steps to prevent transport by discharges.
As required in Ag Order 4.0, Preservation Inc. will continue its sampling of waterways each month of the year. 2 of those monthly sample events focus on stormwater discharges.
This means that 10 times throughout the year, we are testing water bodies that are really dominated by irrigation discharge. It can't be stormwater. In some ways, it's even more important for growers to focus on management of irrigation discharges because that is what often drives exceedance patterns at our cooperative monitoring sites 10 months out of the year. Compared to stormwater discharges, growers sometimes have more options for controlling irrigation-related discharges.
A Cures video production.